Members, we will now start the meeting because we have a quorum. Information paper issued since the last meeting, that's on the agenda, so members could refer to the agenda for the paper number. Item 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. First item, strategy of hydrogen development in Hong Kong. And second item, operation and management of Northeast New Territories landfill and development of modern waste to energy incinerators. Members, do you agree to us taking up these two items at the next meeting on the 24th of June 2024, Monday at 2:30 p.m. Item 3 on the agenda, electrical incidents of CLP Power Hong Kong Limited in 2024. The paper has been forwarded to members. I welcome representatives from the CLP Power Hong Kong Limited to the meeting. Let me first introduce officials and others attending the meeting. Ms. Diane Wong, Undersecretary for Environment and Ecology. Dr. Yona Sham, Principal Assistant Secretary for Environment and Ecology. Mr. Chen Pak Cheung, Deputy Director of Electrical and Mechanical Services. Mr. Boris Yu, Assistant Director of Electrical and Mechanical Services. Mr. Leung Yu Hong, Chief Electrical and Mechanical Engineer. And from CLP Power Limited, Mr. Joseph Law, Ms. Quince Chong, and others from CLP. Now, I'll first invite the Deputy Undersecretary to speak, and then the CLP representative also speak. Thank you. The government takes very seriously the 5 electrical incidents in the first 4 months of this year involving the CLP Power Hong Kong Limited. There was power interruption. There was oversagging wires and so on, and that's so we're very much concerned about some possible power disruption to the life of the public. Now, after each incident, the government immediately sent staff to investigate the cases and follow up on the matter. We asked the CLP to complete restoration work as soon as possible. We also asked CLP to conduct investigation into the cause of the incident, and then investigation reports will be submitted before the deadline. The government has considered all the investigation reports submitted by the CLP Power. In our paper, we have highlighted the main content of these investigation reports and the follow-up actions taken by the CLP. Now, because of in the light of the frequent power interruption incidents, there were cases of people being trapped in lifts. So some believe that government the CLP should show the responsibility for the voltage dip incidents and so on. And the EPD has given suggestions to the CLP, and there should be a penalty system for major power interruption cases. This should be included in the scheme of control agreement. The government will actively consider these recommendations. The government will continue to monitor the performance of CLP. The EMSD does carry out routine inspections on various facilities to make sure there is safe and reliable power supply to the public. Now, the CLP will give you a PowerPoint presentation on the different incidents. Before CLP's representative speaks, if I may remind you, your views or your representations here are not protected by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, CAP 382. Thank you. CLP, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to report to you the various incidents that took place in the first since the start of the year. First of all, on behalf of CLP, we would like to express our extend our apology to the public for the incidents. Now, we know there is a high public expectation. We don't want any incidents to affect the public and our customers. If there's any incident, our first and foremost task is to resume power supply and minimize any disruption to the public. And we must also take follow-up actions to prevent recurrence of similar incidents. On the various electrical incidents, we have already conducted investigation and submitted reports to the government. On 3 cases, they involved a voltage dip, and there's no power interruption involved. On the 1st of January, there's a voltage dip incident at the Ying substation at Ying Chao because of power supply. And then 30th of March, there was another voltage dip case because of hill fire. And there's another voltage dip case because of lightning strikes. And then there's a power interruption case, the 7th of January. On May, Lao Chang'an Estate, there was short power interruption. And then 19th of March, Yuen Long Ao Tau guide wire sagging incident. It's because the contractor did not follow the prescribed procedure. And after the incident, CLP ordered the contractor to suspend all the work until assessment was conducted and enhanced safety measures were put in place. So we have put forward a series of improvement recommendations. We will follow up on these recommendations to make sure there won't be recurrence of similar incidents. In the voltage dip incidents, there were facilities sensitive to power supply. For example, lifts, perhaps the automatic protection mechanism was switched on, leading to the suspension of lift service. So for older lifts, there's a suggestion that we should install the auto reset function for a device for such lifts. Now, about 20,000 of the 70,000 lifts in Hong Kong has been equipped with this auto reset device. And then we are in close discussion with property management companies and government departments so that we could resolve this matter for once and for all. And then CLP also has professional teams to provide free technical advisory service for the installation of suitable electrical installations. We've approached over 100 housing estates and customers. Half of these have taken on board our suggestion on electrical installation advice. Now, we are fully aware of public expectation, and we need sure we meet public expectations. So we are going to have comprehensive review on asset management, repair and maintenance system, monitoring of contractors. We will also engage independent expert parties to review our relevant work. Now, we're going to see more extreme weather, and that is a challenge to us, because 30% of our electrical systems are outdoor, so they're exposed to the elements. We will continue to work hard and adopt innovative technologies in the face of extreme weather. We remain committed to providing safe and reliable power supply to the public. We will also step up communication with different districts and communities and learn about their needs. Now, my colleague will brief you on our investigation findings. Now, I'd like to report to members on our investigation of the 5 incidents. First one, Ying Chao Street substation. There's a 132 kilovolt substation, and because there is a material flaw inside the cable ceiling that leads to degradation of the insulation. So immediately we inspected the cable ceiling end, and then we tried to consider the And we also carry out inspection and did discharge testing. The second incident, 7th of January, on May House, in power interruption. Now, that's 111 kilowatt transformer feeder circuit. There's again a fault with the tri-joint and so on. So we immediately carried out inspection of all similar joints, and we stepped up this communication with relevant parties. The third incident is a guide wire sagging incident at Aotao Yuen Long. At the time, there was a restringing work being carried out by a contractor, but then the wire sagged to the vehicular bridge level. The incident happened because the contractor did not put in place a fall prevention system that's called the double pulley system. And there was issues of coordination with the pulling and sagging of the wire. But if there was the double pulling system, there wouldn't have been this sagging incident. So we immediately stopped the work of the contractor after the incident. There was independent investigation, and then we asked the contractor to appoint personnel to monitor the implementation work, and they should introduce a central commander to make sure there is effective communication among all the operators. And thirdly, they should introduce a CCTV system for effective oversight. We have imposed penalty on the contractor. We have suspended the contractor from bidding for other works of the CLP. Now, perhaps I could also explain the reasons for voltage dip. Over the years, in 80% of the cases, voltage dips were caused by external factors. For example, typhoon, lightning strikes, a hill fire, or interference by foreign objects. For example, balloons, drones, or third-party works. Maybe during the works, there was damage of our wire and so on. And so we have adopted a series of measures to try to minimize the chance of voltage dip. Perhaps we could then look at the voltage dip incident in Yuen Long, Sapat Hang. Now, our system detected fault. There's a 400 kV overhead cable line at the T51 and 52. We found that they were affected by the hill fire. After the putting out of the hill fire, we immediately arranged for drones to carry out detailed inspection. We found that near T51 there were signs of flashover marks, and there's also burnt vegetation. And then we collected some ash for testing, and we found that there's a high carbon content in the ash that shows that during the hill fire there's a high carbon in the atmosphere, and that eventually led to a voltage dip. And then we immediately arranged for helicopters and drones to inspect the power supply condition. There's also cleaning of the insulators on the towers. In future, during high-risk hill fire period, we will do more frequent inspections. Last incident, Tuen Mun, Long Ku Tan, voltage dip because of lightning. It was about 1-something p.m. For 10 seconds, our tower was struck by lightning, and there were 2 voltage dips leading to the stopping of operation of 3 generating units. They tripped. And then we saw signs of lightning. We saw images of lightning, and so it shows that the voltage dip was caused by lightning strike. There's actually a lightning protection system for this generating unit. Since its commissioning in 1996, the system worked well to protect our generating units. But perhaps for this particular lightning strike, it was a high intensity, and probably because there were frequent strikes, that's why that caused the voltage dip. Immediately after incident, we increased the output from other generating units. We also carried out inspection to make sure power supply was normal. Now, we may be seeing more and more extreme weather, so we'll see if there's room for us to further enhance protection, in particular in enhancing our lightning protection system. I'm sure you have all witnessed extreme weather due to climate change. Last year we had a super typhoon, and there was a once in 500 years downpour a week later. And then in Sai Kung and Changkwano, there was a serious heavy downpour leading to serious flooding. So CLP is adopting various measures to try to maintain normal power supply despite these challenging conditions. CLP will continue to provide safe and reliable service to our customers. We will follow up on all the improvement measures in the investigation reports. We will also be doing comprehensive review of all our facilities, including asset management and monitoring of contractors. We have also engaged an independent third party to help us with this task, and then we will further enhance our capacity to respond to extreme weather. Now, voltage dips may not lead to power interruptions, but then for sensitive electrical devices, for example, the older escalators, that could lead to tripping of these escalators, causing inconvenience to the public. So we are in close communication with the escalator sector, public management companies, and government departments. Hopefully we could identify a good technical solution to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for members to ask questions. 10 members have pressed a button to request to speak. Mr. Benson Lok, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Mr. Michael Tan, Ms. Carmen Khan, Mr. Robert Lee, Mr. Rin Kong, Mr. Adrian Ho, Gary Zhang, Frankie Yik, and myself. 4 minutes questions and answers included. And Mr. Kenneth Lau has also pressed a button. Mr. Benson Lok, please. Thank you, Chairman. Voltage dip incidents are possible all around the world. For 5 incidents mentioned in the papers, the one that affected more citizens involved incidents that relate to lifts. Weather also played a part. In the last 2 paragraphs in the papers, there are recommendations. 1, they request contractors to start the lift once again as soon as possible, and the introduction of a penalty system. However, these 2 are what we can do after the incident, but then we need to think ahead. We need to do something before incidents happen in order to minimize the impact on citizens. For example, occupational safety. Our aim is to prevent accidents from happening instead of making compensations after incidents. So for voltage dip incidents, lift incidents are the most common, and they affected the most citizens in Hong Kong. So can we concentrate resources in order to minimize the impact of voltage dip leading to citizens being trapped in lifts? When lifts are suspended upon voltage dip incidents, can the lifts be automatically started? can the administration discuss with the CLP to see how we can put in place systems that can minimize the impact of lift trapping for citizens? If in the unlikely event of such large-scale events or accidents involving lifts, does the administration have any coordination mechanism to work with disciplined forces and care teams? There are volunteer teams of the CLP and the Hong Kong Electric Company in the case of large-scale incidents. For example, when the life-sustaining machines supporting senior citizens are stopped, how can we restore power supply as soon as possible? Under Secretary, thank you, member. In our introduction and in the documents, I believe you are aware of the recommendations put forward by the CLP. After the EMSD reviewed the report, they have also given extra recommendations. On the aspect of prevention, let me give you a few examples. After the incidents take place, the EMSD has already requested that the CLP conduct a full review on the power supply system, including the asset management as well as the electricity transmission and distribution facility, resilience against external factors, and so on. These are to enhance security as well as the stability of power supply. Of course, we do need to keep a close watch on the provision of power supply of the CLP in order to guard against future voltage dip incidents. In relation to citizens being trapped in lifts, the administration all along has some plans or schemes. Buildings can apply for the updating of these lifts, and the EMSD can give you some figures in a moment. In a document and in the PowerPoint presentation, the CLP also mentioned working with the government as well as contractors of lifts to see what can be implemented pragmatically. Regarding the EMSD, after they are informed of the incident, they can also request the contractor to deploy staff members and equipment to the areas being affected to render assistance to citizens being trapped in lifts, as well as to restore power supply to lifts. Regarding senior citizens and people in need, they can seek help from the police and the FSD. Our mechanism can handle these incidents. Regarding the upgrading of lifts, anything else to be added by the EMSD? Regarding lifts, Mr. Chen, most lifts being affected are actually lifts with an older model. They are not equipped with the latest modern system. We have a total of 73,000 lifts in Hong Kong. 22,000 of these lifts are equipped with this system. So 51,000 of these lifts are not equipped with the system I mentioned. That is, those that can be automatically activated after voltage dip incidents. They have electric functions. It takes hundreds of thousands of dollars in order to update or upgrade these lifts. So if persons in charge need to upgrade these lifts, it will be quite expensive, probably $500,000 or so. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kok. Thank you, Chairman. Regarding the power supply in Hong Kong, we are known for our high stability around the world. Power interruptions gave rise to discussion. I was in the council. So why do we have an award system in the case of power interruptions? The days are gone when citizens need to hold a candle at home in the case of power interruptions. That's when we had the award system. However, right now we have high stability of power supply. So we shouldn't use the old penalty and incentive system. I believe members agree that we need to look forward. Voltage dip incidents are common, although not frequent. In the report, it mentioned extreme weather and lightning strikes might affect the power supply system. As I can see, the CLP has been proactive. They admitted to issues about management and technical equipment. They have been thinking how they can enhance their capabilities to guard against any impact as a result of extreme weather. I can see that they are very proactive. But we need to think about what the CLP can do. We also need to think about what Hong Kong can do. For the equipment Hong Kong uses, how capable is it to guard against any incidents in the future? We need to make improvements. Lifts are a problem. Some are newer lifts. Some of them are equipped with a better safety system. We have a fund in the government that is to upgrade the lifts in Hong Kong. This is under the purview of the EMSD. There were several serious lift incidents. Some even led to fatalities. We were alive to the danger of the situation. It was very serious, so we needed to spend money setting up a fund to upgrade these lifts. I believe this is very important work. We do need to continue to work on this. So we need to work on both the supply side and the demand side of power supply. Do we need a punitive system? Do we always need to resort to a penalty system? It's not quite fair. We need to analyze the causes of the incidents. We need to tell whether it is because of a mistake of the CLP or is it because of extreme weather? We need to know the causes of the incidents. For example, do we need to penalize the MTRCL whenever there are accidents on the MTR system? Do we need to penalize the DSD whenever there is flooding? I think there is some logical flaw. Dr. Low has quite a few views and a response. We are still in the middle of discussion, so we are not going to go into details. Member mentioned the supply side, that is the CLP. Let's see if the CLP has anything to add regarding lifts, that is the users of lift. I can give you more information. In 2009, the EMSD has amended the design and construction code of practice in relation to lifts. Lifts need to have a fallback system in the case of voltage dip incidents. In 2019, they have further amended the guidelines. Lifts put into service after 2020 need to be equipped with such a system. There should also be an automatic rescue system. This will solve the problem facing lifts. Members are concerned about, so what about older lifts? From 2019 to 2020, the government had 2 rounds of subsidy schemes for the upgrading of lifts. Some systems are compulsory, whereas some systems are elective. They are not mandatory. In any event, these new lifts, there are a total of 73,000 lifts in Hong Kong. Those equipped with this system, about 22,000 lifts. For the remaining 51,000 lifts, they are older lifts with a service life of 15 years, so they are not equipped with this system. We have analyzed the situation. That is how many are under the CLP, how many are under Hong Kong Electric Company. I understand there are some cables in the case of CLP, so they are subject to high risks. There are 37,000 lifts under the CLP. 4,000 lifts will be handled under the scheme I mentioned. So this leaves 33,000 lifts. I'll see how we can help the remaining lifts to upgrade in Hong Kong. Well, member need to give the administration enough time to respond to your question. Mr. Michael Tin. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to clarify a point regarding voltage dip. 3 such incidents in 4 months. There are more lift trapping incidents, totaling over 190. There were 8 to 10 voltage dip incidents annually. But luckily, none of that happened in peak hours. Otherwise, it might take over 4 hours before rescuers arrived. I explained to the community in January. In 2009, the EMSD has issued guidelines in relation to lift systems. They requested that a system be installed for lifts after 2010. For older lifts, it may take hundreds of thousands of dollars to install this system. We have new technologies. In 2019, they have a new system that is auto-rescue device. It has a backup battery. Whether in major power interruptions or voltage dip incidents, these lifts will be moved to the nearest floor. That is because they have backup power, so the lifts will be opened for people trapped inside to leave the lifts. I don't understand why not all lifts are equipped with this system, that is those after 2019. But anyway, over the weekend, I talked to the senior management of the CLP companies or lift companies. They told me it took hundreds of thousands of dollars to install the system, as the control system needed to be changed. For those after 2019, it only takes tens of thousands of dollars to install the system. So the administration, please respond to me. This is what I was told by the senior management of lift companies. Because you didn't tell me how much it cost for the auto-rescue device. Now, if the system is to be installed for the remaining 51,000 lifts, the ratio to be shared is 7:3. Tens of thousands of dollars is not a great amount. Next, on penalty, I don't agree that there is no meaning in relation to penalty. Well, I think for incidents involving human factors, I see no reason not to penalize the companies. the power companies invest in their equipment, just like major power blackouts. When someone is trapped inside the lift, there should be penalty. So for each incident, the CPL should pay $10,000 to the government for each incident, and for each person being trapped, you should pay them $1,000. Thank you.
Under Secretary. Well, it's two parts to the questions. I'll ask the EMSC to respond to the point about the cost. Yes, the 2019, the cost. So, and then the second part is about the mechanism. We've heard members' views. So we have to consider whether there are human errors involved, or it's just a natural disaster or force majeure. So, yes, we will consider your views. EMSD, on cost, please. Thank you, Mr. Chen. For the guide in 2009 for lifts installed after 2010 must have this function to cater for voltage dip. And then for 2019, we added the new requirement of auto rescue device. So, either of the devices for installation in the new lift, there's no need to provide both devices. We've been in discussion with the lift sector. If the lifts need to be retrofitted with the devices, need to change the control system. That's why lift companies have told us it will cost more than $500,000. And then there are individual escalator suppliers who try to achieve the same effect by easier modification of the control system. But when we need to make sure there will not be additional risk as a result of the additional devices. Chairman, he hasn't answered my question. He's still talking about the 2009 guide. I agreed it costs over $500,000, but then for the 2019 device, it only cost a few $10,000. He never told us how much it would cost to put in a device to cater for voltage dips. For the 2019 device, would it be cheaper? No, it still costs several hundred thousand dollars. Well, in that case, I'll have to talk to you after the meeting. Ms. Carmen Ken. Now, there are 5 incidents in 2024. I have 3 questions. Incidents 4 and 5. They may have to do with force majeure. And then 2022, there was this cable bridge fire incident. In the same year, CLP received a reward of $19.9 million. So I'd like to look at the formula in calculating reward. Some said that if we don't change the formula, then it's possible that when there are more incidents, CLP will receive more reward for restoring power supply. So for incidents not related to force majeure, should they be taken out when working out the reward? That's the first question. Second question. There's an index on major power blackout incidents. There's a Yun Long case. It's a major case involving 3,000 minutes. And now the threshold is set at 15,000 minutes. Is it reasonable? Because for the other power company, I understand the threshold is not the same. Now, my third question. I asked a written question in March. I asked the repair maintenance costs of the 2 power companies. Because it's related to enhancing the transparency of the scheme of control agreement. At the time, the Bureau said it's not at liberty to disclose such confidential information. But my question is, okay, you won't disclose information to the public, but does the Bureau keep such information on the repair maintenance costs of the two power companies, so you can ensure that there is safe and reliable power supply. Under Secretary. And the 2022 incident. There were different public views expressed on the incident, and as a result, in the 2023 midterm review, we introduced a new item for major incidents that affect a large number of members of the public. There is a penalty system. Yes, I know that. That's why my question is, you set the midterm, in the midterm review, we set threshold at 50 million instead of 30 million. Then, so, you know, like the then for the major case like the Yunlong incident, then you can't really penalize the power company. So is it reasonable? Well, but this threshold is for major incidents that affects a large number of people for a prolonged period. Then this customer interruption duration index is triggered. But apart from this index, we will also look at the reliability of power supply. So power supply reliability, restoration of power supply, these are the two factors we consider, and we'll consider how many cases there are in a year. So it's about whether it's reasonable to reward for restoring power supply. Now, if, say, power is restored after 99 minutes in one case, and in that case it's a restoration after 1 minute, you add two together and divide that by, you add up the two figures and divide that by 2, then there's a chance of a reward. So that means if there are more incidents and then you may spread out the average number, and so there's a high chance of reward. So I wonder if you review that in your next midterm review. Perhaps the Bureau could give a reply later. Well, this is an ongoing process. Even though if there is no midterm review, if there's need, we will always review the arrangement. Mr. Robert Lee. In the first 4 months in this year, there were 5 electrical incidents involving CLP. I'm very much concerned about them. I hope you will find out the causes of the incidents and introduce improvement measures, because these incidents will affect the public. And people may have less confidence in safe and reliable power supply in Hong Kong. In January, there were 2 electrical incidents that involved material fall or aging of materials. We're told that you'll be using more technologies in future. Can you elaborate a bit on how you can use technology to identify problems with the transmission system, including the aging of cables? Perhaps an example is financial institutions. They have they have servers, and there's remote monitoring of their plant rooms and server rooms, so that the relevant personnel will be alerted, say if there's flooding or fire, or oxygen could be extracted at once from plant room to put out a fire, for instance. So how can you use technology to resolve issues more quickly? And how do you make sure that the relevant personnel is alerted at the first instance so they could take action at once? For the March 19th incident, there's insufficient coordination between CLP and the contractor. Well, the public wouldn't know if it has to do with a contractor. If something happens, they will just ask what's going on with CLP. So how can you be more stringent in your selection of contractors? The Bureau explained a penalty system But then I think it's more important that you engage contractors who will, meet your performance pledge, so there won't be any problems. I'll ask the CLP to respond. In the investigation report involving incidents 1 and 2, there's mention of the adoption of innovative technology for online monitoring. And the second question is about the selection of contractors. I'll ask CLP to take the two questions. CLP, please. Thank you for your questions, Mr. Lee. First question, is there alert system before fault happens involving our devices? Now, we are using a new technology to monitor discharge, because very often when there is fault with some device, it doesn't just happen all of a sudden. Usually there's a gradual discharge until triggering points, and then a fault will occur. So we are exploring technologies that will help us to identify these problems early. Is about monitoring of materials and devices. Second question, selection of contractors. We have a stringent system in place for procuring contractors' service. We'll make sure that the contractors have a relevant experience and meet other requirements. Now, for this contractor, it has rich experience in restringing work. There is also stringent requirement on the staff. Say the staff must have certain qualifications, say for climbing towers, and when they come to Hong Kong, they are given training on safety and electrical and mechanical training, and they have to meet our requirements before they can start work. Now, we've learned some experience from this incident. In future, again, we plan to use IT for us to have real-time remote monitoring of safe conduct of work. Thank you, Ms. Doreen Kong.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not a member of this panel, but thanks for allowing me to ask questions. Regarding the incident in Outer Yuen Long, I'm aware that it is in relation to a cable or an overhead line. Of course, it's the best to have all the cables or lines underground, but I understand when we need to lay the lines underground, it involves a lot of different government departments. The procedures are complicated. In the new territories, if power companies would need, if they want to lay underground lines or cables, does the administration have any enhancement measures or policies in order to streamline the procedures? Will you allow these procedures to be expedited? I'd like to ask about the fifth incident. That is the one that involved lightning strikes. We have more and more common extreme weather right now, especially regarding overhead lines. What concrete measures does the CLP have? My last point, whenever there are incidents, many people requested financial penalties. However, for those involving disasters, well, I don't think that is reasonable. Are there any other countries that have the same practice, that have similar practice? Otherwise, Hong Kong may have may give people the impression that we are making it difficult for companies. Under Secretary. Regarding extreme weather, what measures the CLP has, I will invite the CLP to take the question. In relation to overhead lines, the risks are of course greater. Just now, the CLP also mentioned in the future a new development areas. If possible, they are going to use underground lines or cables. However, for existing overhead lines, if they are to be changed to underground lines, there are two factors that need to be considered. First, investment, the impact on electricity charges. According to the SCA, we need to maintain the electricity charges at a reasonable level. We need to avoid unnecessary costs being passed on to users. Next, a lot of different procedures are involved. For example, the approval of land and the excavation of land. Land resources are valuable. When it comes to utilities, there are many cables or lines underground. So we need to take into account every situation to see whether it is appropriate to do so. Next, in relation to the mechanism mentioned by members, member mentioned incidents with human factors or other cases, for example, force majeure. In the interim review, the CID Customer Interruption Duration Index, we didn't take into account force majeure events. The CLP, please. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Member, for your questions. The power distribution network, 30% is made up of overhead lines, so that is vulnerable to extreme weather, that is subject to the impact of lightning strikes. There are measures in response to lightning strikes. In power plants, we have lightning arrestor system. For higher risk overhead lines, we have already put in place some measures to guard against lightning strikes. That is lightning rods. Apart from lightning strikes, severe or extreme weather also involve strong wind and downpours. We have already implemented different measures. For example, for substations in low-lying areas, we have already installed alert system and water gates, so we can minimize the impact of flooding. Mr. Adrian Ho. Thank you, Chairman. This January, within the service scope of the CLP, there were voltage dip incidents sparking concerns in the community. I understand voltage dip incidents are difficult to avoid. These happened within a very short period of time. Power will also be restored in a short period of time. Indeed, there were cases about citizens being trapped inside lifts. So it made me think, is it possible that the operation of lifts will no longer be affected by voltage dip? Online information shows me there are some 72,000 lifts in Hong Kong. Those equipped with a system with a voltage dip operation, there are only some 20,000 lifts. In 2009, the Code of Practice on the Design and Construction of Lifts and Escalators was amended. The operational requirement for post-voltage dip incidents was included. Will there be subventions, subsidies to sponsor buildings to install auto reactivation system for lifts after voltage dip incidents? For lifts that have already served the public for 15 years or above, they can be equipped with this system so that we can have more lifts that can still operate smoothly after voltage dip incidents. So most lifts will also be equipped with this system. Undersecretary, the government had 2 rounds of lift upgrading programs. Applicants are in the middle of upgrading these lifts. In a PowerPoint presentation, the CLP mentioned that they will work with contractors as well as government departments to see what they can do. I'll see what the CLP has to add. Thank you, member, for your question. We have heard the public. We understand the public would like to minimize impact of voltage dip incidents on lifts. We are communicating with major stakeholders, including property management companies, relevant government departments. We are liaising closely with these stakeholders in order to minimize impact of voltage dips impact on lifts. To see how we can install these auto reactivation system for lifts. Next, the CLP has a professional team to provide free technical consultation services for our clients. We make recommendations to mitigation measures for voltage dip incidents. In the past 3 years, we have been in touch with over 100 estates and customers. Over half of them have already accepted our mitigation measures. We understand the industry has this plan. In the future, we will put in place more of these measures. Next, Mr. Frankie Yik, I'd like to ask the CLP, what is the reliability index? Is it 99%, 99.9%, or do you have any figure? CLP. Thank you, member, for your question. In 2023, the electricity reliability index stood at 99.999%. This is an extremely high figure. I don't believe any power company will guarantee 100% of power supply. As Mr. Adrian Ho said, this is not avoidable. For 2 of the 5 incidents were due to force majeure incidents, whereas the remaining are in relation to parts. For unavoidable accidents, it is the most important to identify the causes and any proposals or solutions. In paragraph 7 of the papers, you mentioned condition assessment plan on insulation soundness and exploring innovation and technology solutions for online condition monitoring for both cable joints and cable sealing ends. So do you have any such measures, or are you still preparing for these measures? Thank you, member. We do have the concepts, and we are exploring with the service providers to see how we can commercialize the concepts in order to have the products. So you have the concepts. I look forward to products. In paragraph 9, the EMSD instructed that you need to send staff members to conduct on-site monitoring in high-risk works. Yes, we have already implemented this measure. In relation to high-risk works, we have EMSD staff members to monitor the works on-site. We also use real-time video clips to monitor the progress of the works on-site. So in the event of these incidents, there are always solutions to these incidents, so we should try our best to prevent these incidents. It is not possible to have 100% safety index. It is not the case that the more you penalize the companies, the better they will perform. There are always things that we cannot prevent. I understand that. We are always forward-looking. From the perspective of works, there are always things that we can prevent. So I hope that you will take stock of the experience with these 5 incidents. I hope the EEB, I believe the EEB has already heard you. Thank you. Mr. Kenneth Lau, our meeting is scheduled to end at 5 p.m. I have already extended the meeting by 15 minutes. I'd like to see if members will agree to a further extension of 15 minutes. If members agree, yes, Professor Lau Chi-Pang, thank you. Well, Mr. Adrian Ho beat me to it. He asked a question that I wanted to ask. If we need to achieve 100% of the safety index, well, in theory, it is possible. Money can solve the problem. After spending money to solve the problem, then we need to talk about electricity charges. Just now we talked about lift trapping incidents. These are the consequences we can see, and this will cause panic as well as inconvenience to public. Well, the lights may flash. Apart from lift trapping incidents, will panic be caused to the public, or will their physical conditions be affected? If yes, what are the measures in place? The COP, please. Thank you, member, for your question. On voltage dip incidents, usually power will be restored after 0.1 second. For example, for lamps, the light may flash the lamps may flash for once. For equipment that is more sensitive, it will also be affected. We have consulted our clients to see what can be installed in order to tie them over the voltage dip incidents. If there's no follow-up, next member, Ms. Judy Chan. Thank you, Chairman. Power supply is crucial to members of the public. We need stable power supply. As we can see, for these 5 incidents, luckily, there wasn't much damage. I'd like to ask some technical questions. In paragraph 3 of the papers, it mentions the power ordinance. The electricity ordinance. A report has to be submitted to the director in relation to the causes as well as the remedial action that can be done to prevent a recurrence of the accident. There are 2 types of accidents. 1, power accidents. In 3 days, a report has to be submitted to the director, and in 4 weeks' time, another report has to be submitted to the director. Another type is the electrical accident. That is, unless the director requests, the power company does not need to submit a report. I'd like to ask the difference between these 2 cases. The public cannot tell the difference between these 2 types of accident. It seems there is no clear explanation under the electricity ordinance. The word used in the papers is incident. Is it considered an incident or an accident under the law? That is a fault or incident.
Under Secretary. Now, in the electricity ordinance, the electrical accident, there's section 2 of the ordinance. There's a definition for electrical accident. And then section 10 bracket 2, there's a requirement for the submission of a report in 4 weeks. And it has to do with electrical accident as stated in section 10 bracket 1. EMSD. Well, the ordinance spells out the obligations and powers of electricity suppliers. For an electrical incident, in general, will require the submission of a report in 4 months to give the cause and remedial action that has been taken or will be taken to prevent the recurrence of the accident. So these electrical incidents are all considered electrical accidents, am I right? But in the course of investigation, maybe they found a fault or material flaw, for instance. Then there may be different. The incident is classified differently, depending on the investigation findings. Now it's my turn. We need to be forward-looking. If a voltage dip may affect the public, for example, people are trapped in lift, and how do we bring about improvement? I think that's important. On whether CLP should be penalized, I think it's for the government to discuss with CLP as to how we distinguish human factors or other external factors, human errors or other external factors, rather. Now, with the advancement of technology, there may be certain devices or systems that will ensure no disruption of power supply. So is CLP using these devices or systems? And are these devices effective in the case of voltage dip? Now, say for the Tin Shui Wai incident, vouchers were distributed by CLP to parties affected, and then they also give out consumption vouchers. This year, I think they gave out $15 million worth of vouchers. So for so you can call it compensation, you call it token to those affected. Other than consumption vouchers, would you consider using the money to subsidize the retrofitting of suitable devices in the older escalators? And then in future, we won't again see incidents as a result of voltage dip. I'll take your first question, and then Mr. Zhang will supplement on the technical question. CLP is well aware of customers concerned about voltage dip incidents. So we have to look at the entire power supply network and on how we can protect customers. We will be taking active actions. And how do we assist in the retrofitting of devices in older escalators? Well, we the lifts industry and property management companies as government departments need to come to some sort of agreement on a feasible option. And then if the device could be retrofitted in older escalators, then that would address that will resolve the whole issue. So are you going to do so? We are actively exploring the issue with the relevant parties. Okay, yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your question. CLP has projects to test energy or power-saving devices, maybe renewable energy or charged batteries. So hopefully with some energy savings device, we could ensure the uninterrupted supply of power. But then whether these devices are useful in the case of focus chip, we will look into that. Thank you. Maybe I can ask a question of the Undersecretary as well. Power supply is a form of public utility like sewage services, and it's important that we provide reliable public utilities for Hong Kong to develop its economy. Maybe there's need to lay more cables, and then there's need to do excavation works. Now it's easier to provide water supply because then it's just for government departments to have internal coordination. Now there's a good example. Gas stations are being turned into charging stations, and there is a task force to help with the laying of power cables. Power supply is important for us. And in old districts, you may need to lay new cables. So is there a task force that helps with the coordination of different departments? So therefore, it's easier for power companies to carry out works. Well, Mr. Chairman, you can pass on specific cases to us. And then we'll talk to the relevant parties. Thank you for following up on this as a case. But I'd rather like to see a mechanism in place. So with all public utilities, there will be the same mechanism in terms of coordinating relevant works. You know, for water supply is provided by the government, so it's easier in terms of coordination among departments. But then power supply is also important for our economy. So for all essential public utilities, I hope there is a task force to help with the coordination of works. Well, some utilities are not under the charge of our bureau. Say for application of excavation permits, there is already in place some form of coordination mechanism. Okay, I'll follow up with you then after the meeting. Are there other members who wish to speak? If not, then that's the end of the item. Any other business? Anything under any other business? If not, the meeting is adjourned. I would like to thank the government representatives and CLP representatives for attending the meeting. Thank you.